Okay, so today I'll be answering the question: What development in Europe and the Americans enabled the European powers to explore the Western Hemisphere and successfully conquer the native empire? To begin with, after the plague, they needed something to help their economic status. The best way they knew to do that was by finding gold or by finding or conquering new land. They also needed timber since their boats were mainly made of timber, and since boats were their main transporting goods source. Um, Now, what developments helped the Europes and Americans explore the Western Hemisphere was the technological advances and inventions like a movable typer that was invented by Johannes Gutenberg, compasses, hourglass, astrolabe, and quadrant, which were devices for determining latitude, which was a big key in and being able to sail from Europe to the Americas. Once landing here in the Americans, um, the Europeans encountered the Incas, the Aztecs, and what helped them, and they were very greedy. They knew they came here and they saw their riches, their golds, their silver, their whatever. They knew they wanted it for themselves, every tiny bit of it. Now, what helped them conquer the native empires were their cutting edge swords, which were made of steel, just like their armor, which were far superior than the Native Americans' weapons at that point. Of course, one big contribution to them overtaking them were their cannons and firearms. The Native Americans have never seen that, so they didn't even know what they did, so of course they weren't going to be ready um, for that. Another big key was intimidation. When you enter into battle and you have fear, you're already losing half the battle. And the reason why they were intimidated by the Europeans were because they've never seen creatures they had, and by creatures I mean their horses. Now, probably the biggest contribution to the reason why the Europeans were able to conquer the Native Americans were because of the disease. The diseases wiped most of the native empires like completely off of the planet. It devastated the Incas and Aztecs. Now the reasons why that happened was because unlike the Europeans who had prior experience with the disease, like their previous encounter with the Black Death and many other plagues, the Native Americans on the other side didn't have prior contact with these diseases. Most of the diseases what came from the animals that they brought, like horses, cows, sheep, goats, etc. Which and thanks to the disease, they were also the reason why another contribution they were able to conquer was because unlike the Native Americans, which were the only thing they were receiving were the diseases, the Europeans were getting goods such as gold, silver, and of course food by conquering their cities. In other words, what I just explained was also known as the Columbian Exchange, which was pretty much the Europeans came here and brought their disease and their because of their animals, and in return the Indians got, of course, infected and wiped off, while the Europeans were able to conquer their land since they were getting wiped off, um, getting their foods, their goods, everything. And one other big key that the Europeans learned from the Native Americans were the agriculture. They were able to make their own food supplies, and of course, and that's the reason why they were able to come here and conquer the Native Americans.